Pattern 3, it is characterized by a very low variety diet with a very high intake of starchy foods, very monotonous diet, but high in fiber, low in fat, low in protein, and the most common diseases are the nutritional deficiencies and also infectious disease, like what we can see in Africa and in some countries from Latin America and Asia. Pattern 4 starts with a very fast increase in fat, in sugar, and in processed foods in general. While in developing countries, this transition from pattern 3 to pattern 4, it was slowly during the last 300 years, more or less, 200-300 years. In developing countries is occurring last decades, very, very fast, and it is not uniform between all the countries. We can see, for example, this ultra-processed soup, and we can see that the vegetables is the fifth ingredient. So the first is fat, the second is salt, there are a lot of additives, and the legumes, the vegetables are just a very little amount, and the content of salt is very high, almost 2 grams in one portion, and the maximum is 5 grams a day. So with one soup, one little soup, we almost contribute with half of this salt.
If you think about Mediterranean diet or Nordic diet, or even the DASH healthy eating pattern, you can see that there is a core of cereals, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, and fish as the main foods to encourage. And on the other way, all of them have in common that meat and sweets or beverages with sugars have to decrease. And then if you look at there, it's very curious because the way that there is integrated is very different according each pattern. And when you look at the best diets for healthy eating, you can see a very long list of different models. You can see that in this ranking from the US, which is scored by specialists and also from journalists, you can see that Mediterranean diet is the first, and after that DASH diet and flexitarian diet, and then a long list with models that are preoccupied for one side the nutritional adequacy, and also on the other side the problems of the weight, to control your weight. So as you can see here, not all of these models are preoccupied with sustainability. Most of them are preoccupied with not increasing your weight. So yesterday I saw you also addressed this topic, which is very curious. Patricia also mentioned that we have a part of the world dealing with weight control and a part of the world dealing with undernourished people, and as you can see here, the bad news is that undernourished just increased in the last year, and at the same time people who spend part of their lives as a fetus with a mother that is stressed with undernourishment, they are much more prone to being an obese adult. So you have the two sides of the coin: undernourished people and also adult obesity. This is a very nice paper just a few days ago in which the authors in China, about 500,000 people, they use genetic epidemiologic evidence to see that when you use this genetic data and trying to look at the epidemiological data, you get a different picture when analyzing this data, showing that if you drink a little bit, you have a lower risk for coronary heart disease than if you do not drink. But when you look at the same data using the genetic information, you can see that this G-shaped curve just disappears and you don't have anymore the protection from the alcohol beverages in your health. So what is moderation is really a question.
So talking about the importance of seafood, we eat seafood since we are on Earth, mainly. We have changed the way that we harvest seafood, we have changed the way that we store seafood, and we have changed the way that we process seafood. It is highly recommended to eat at least twice per week seafood. You have a lot of advantages on eating seafood twice a week, not only to reduce the cardiovascular diseases that we can affect consumers, but also for neurological, reducing neurological diseases, etc. There is a huge diversity of seafood consumption all over the world, particularly in Europe. You have seen this graph here. You have Hungary, where they can eat 5 kilograms per capita per year of seafood, and Portugal, where you can find, on average, a person eats almost 60 kilograms of seafood per year. It's a lot. And so you can see that there is a huge variety of seafood consumption all over Europe. Is it sustainable or not? It is estimated that by 2050, the increase in population and the economical growth will lead to a huge demand of food in general, almost doubling the amount of food that we are producing today. There are two ways mainly of producing seafood. One is from fisheries, and the second one is from aquaculture. Is it sustainable to produce seafood from fisheries? No, it is not. Why? This graph presents clearly the reason. At this moment and globally, we have 95% of the resources that are already fully exploited or overexploited, and it's increasing the pattern. Unfortunately, in Europe, we have seen the deficit in the commercial trade of seafood is mainly due to the lack of investment in aquaculture. In order to be sustainable, the aquaculture has done in the last 25 years a big effort to change from an unsustainable way of using fish meal and fish oil to put in the pellets to feed the fish, to less than 25% in 25 years. There are some risks of eating seafood, but the risks, indeed, when you compare the risks with the benefits clearly are higher. So if we eat seafood in a diversified way, we don't focus our consumption in a single species, indeed we are on the safe side. The trends that we will see in the future for the consumption of seafood will be to prioritize species that indeed occupy lower trophic levels. It is a waste to use predatory species, but if we use lower trophic level species like mackerel, sardines, horse mackerel, and also bivalves, we are reducing the pressure over the environment. Only choosing species that come from sustainable and responsible fishing and farming practices, it is really important, and also species that are harvested in areas that have controlled and strict regulations for the environment perspective. This combined with quality certification schemes will improve certainly the consumer confidence in seafood by making available products that are trustful, traceable, healthy, safe, and tailor-made regarding the requirements of the consumers.
So first, as a definition, insects are animals that have particular properties or characteristics. So the main thing that we know is they are cold blood, and this is a very important thing because they are very efficient in using food to increase weight. They are highly reproducible, they reproduce quickly. 2 billion people eat insects. It's a novelty for our Western culture, but almost 30% of the human population already eat insects. 2,000 species of insects that are used as food in many cultures. We have things like larvae of wasps that are sweet and crunchy, and they usually prepared with soy and sugar. I can point now already that I believe that insects are, as a first approach, a very good way to, a very promising way to feed animals. If we talk in edible part, because most of the beef of the cow is not edible, only 40% is edible. In a cricket, 80% is edible, and if we normalize for the edible part, we have 2.1 kilos of feed to produce 1 kilo of insects, of edible cricket, and 25 kilos of feed to produce 1 kilo of meat. So we need to study more the insect diets. So we need to grow more nutritional and sustainable insects. We need to increase or to improve the diets that we provide to the insects. And there is also new books in this topic. So thank you.
Thank you.